Vote out leftists. Save America. We detail a simple action that will get America back on track in tonight's preamble. The United States is still reeling from the tragic shooting in Uvalde, Texas, in an effort to score cheap political points while walking over the dead bodies of 19 beautiful babies. The disgraceful and demented occupier of the Oval Office angered many in Uvalde in Texas by taking the focus off of the victims and putting that focus on the Democrats' agenda of stealing Americans' rights of self-defense with firearms. The biased anti-American press, they are doing their part, downplaying stories that show everyday Americans responsibly using their firearms to stop those who abuse our laws, like the incident in West Virginia, where a woman used her handgun to stop a rifle-wielding maniac who was shooting into a crowd at a party. Even though the press refuses to cover these incidents, they are very common. The Obama CDC conducted a study that found, quote, almost all national survey estimates indicate that defensive gun uses by victims are at least as common as offensive uses by criminals, with estimates of an annual uses ranging from about 500,000 to more than 3 million per year, end quote. In other words, law-abiding Americans are using their firearms as intended to defend ourselves from the Democrats' criminals. That's the truth. Now, how does Joe Biden and his Democrat Party combat the truth? Well, with lies.
The Constitution, the Second Amendment, was never absolute. You couldn't buy a cannon when the Second Amendment was passed. You couldn't go out and purchase a lot of weaponry.
In an effort to justify gun confiscation, Joe Biden tells this often debunked lie about Americans being unable to buy a cannon at the time the Constitution was ratified. Constitutional law professor, a liberal, Jonathan Turley, blasted Biden's claims as, quote, disinformation. The Washington Post even called out Biden's claim about cannons to be false, or as I would call it, a blatant lie to justify doing harm to our people. It is common for those on the left in this country to lie. Countless studies, even from Harvard, show that gun bans cause murder rates and crime to go up. The reason? Well, it's elementary. In the Democrats' utopia, only criminals and the government are armed. When the government fails to protect you, Democrats suggest that your duty is to simply die instead of defending yourself or your family. That's their safer America. But we don't have to look at the Democrats' commitment to criminals and their lack of commitment to keeping you safe in the abstract. We have real-world examples to show you. The Democrats' Daddy Warbucks, for example, Emperor Palpatine, with his brigades of DAs are out there creating the largest crime wave perhaps in our nation's history. And when those criminals that they let out terrorize our communities, Democrats in Congress blame our Constitution. Speaking of those Democrats, in the wake of the Uvalde shooting, Chuck Schumer and his socialists defeated a school safety bill. Now, why would they do this? Well, if schools became safer, Chuck won't be able to achieve his real goal, using unspeakable tragedies to prompt gun confiscation. As everyone knows, the Democrats have been on a jihad against cops, even introducing a bill that would take cops out of GovEd schools, cops that would be there to protect our children. That's right. The same people who are saying that the solution to school shootings is to steal your right of self-defense are the same people introducing bills to make our children less safe. Now, before you act too surprised with the Democrats' conduct, what else would you expect from the party that has slaughtered 63 million babies in the womb since 1973? And that brings us full circle to Joe Biden, a man who is screwing up our nation so severely and perhaps irreparably that not even anti-American Democrats at NBC can cover for him any longer. They write, quote, amid a rolling series of calamities and sinking approval ratings, the president's feeling lately is that he just can't catch a break. And that angst is rippling through his party, end quote. Wait. We're supposed to feel sorry for this guy? We're supposed to feel sorry for the Democrats and the alleged drumming they deserve in the fall? We're supposed to think all of this willful damage that Biden is doing to our families and our country is simply because Biden has just had a string of bad luck. Well, his bad luck is that, well, he's such a colossal failure that his leftist millennial know-nothings decided to crank up all of the pain all at once and on multiple fronts, showing their hatred for our country and our people for all the world to see. Their allies in the press just can't hide the devastation any longer. The Democrats are a cancer to our nation. They're in danger of metastasizing and killing the body politic, our beloved country. But they're not alone. Their friends in the GOP are tripping all over themselves to steal your rights as well. It's a long time past, folks, that Americans take back control of our government. Since a majority of Washington has tuned us out, we should return the favor. Forget your old alliances. Forget your old prejudices. Now is the time to rein in a government that has grown beyond the consent of the governed. It is time that every state in our country ratified participation in the Article 5 Convention of States. Since Washington will not correct itself, it's time for us, their bosses, to do it for them.